We're set and ready. Perfect timing. So, hi, Greg. How are you today?
Hi, I'm great. How are you, Jared?
I'm doing great too. Thank you so much.
Good.
So, let me start by introducing you to
Okay.
everyone that is going to be watching this or joining us eventually.
Okay.
Okay, so Mr. Greg Howard was born and raised in South Carolina, Low Country in the States. As many of us, including me, loved the books and stories at a very young age. And I know that Mr. Howard also loves other things, such as Reese's Peanut Butter Cups and our queen, Dolly Parton.
Mm-hmm.
This amazing author has written for us and about us, the LGBTQ plus youth. So I believe that it's an incredible way of activism through the literature, through books. So as a great selection of titles on his own, such as The Visitors, the most recent release, I believe. And then we have Social Intercourse, which is a personal favorite. We also have Middle School's Attract, You Better Work, what happens to be in an adaptation development for TV, I believe.
Right.
So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Let me tell you. And also The Whispers, which is, well, was nominated for an Edgar Award and is one of the two novels that we're going to be talking about today. So I'm very glad that you're here today. As I told you several times, I am very happy to get to know you. And I believe that this might be the very first time that you're attending such event in our country. Am I
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yes, you are right.
Oh, well,
So
I'm
that's
so happy.
exciting.
I'm
You're the
so
first.
happy. I'm so happy to know that, and it's such a great honor. So, book lovers, ladies, gentlemen, and non-binaries, please welcome the one and only Greg Howard.
Hey, guys.
And also happy International Pride Day, everyone.
Yes, absolutely.
It was an amazing way to commemorate and celebrate today.
Yes.
So, as I said earlier in this little introduction, we're going to be talking about two books. You know, one of them, it's called The Whispers, and it's translated and available in Spanish language as Los Susurros del Bosque from Urano Publishing House. But in the United States, you can find the English, but like the original version in Simon and Schuster, I believe.
It's Penguin, actually.
Oh, it's Penguin.
Oh,
Penguin.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You said Social Intercourse or The Whispers?
No, The Whispers.
Oh, The Whispers. Yes, that's Penguin.
Okay, The Whispers. So Penguin Random House, I believe Penguin Books, Penguin Kids.
Mm-hmm.
It must be something of that, but you can find it in anywhere, I believe, Amazon,
Right. Yeah.
bookstores. Yeah.
Yes.
So we're going to start with Los Susurros del Bosque.
Okay.
Can you let us know a little bit of what was, well, no, what is the book about?
Well, the book is a very personal story. It's probably the most personal story I've written. All my books have some part of me in them, and they all build on some of my childhood experiences. There's a lot of me in each book, but The Whispers in particular is very personal. It's kind of a tribute to my mother. In the book, and a lot of the characters and places are from my childhood and from my life. Especially the family members that are in the book. But it's about a little boy named Riley. He's 11 years old, and he has been searching for his mother. His mother went missing like 6 months ago, and the police can't find her, and they keep questioning Riley about the day of her disappearance. And he can't remember what happened that day, but he's frustrated that the police can't find her, and B, he's getting a little worried the way they're questioning him, as if he may have something to do with her disappearance, and he doesn't remember. So he gets frustrated with them and decides to try to find her on his own. And when he was a little boy, his mom always told him this story about the whispers, which are these magical woodland creatures, like almost like fairies, that would give you all your heart's desires if you paid tribute to them. So he believes that the whispers, if he can find the whispers and follow the whispers, they will lead him to his mother because they know everything. They know all the secrets in the universe. So he sets out one day with his friends, Gary and Carl, and his dog, Tucker, who plays a big role in the book. And they go out into the woods to go looking for these whispers, and hopefully, that the whispers can lead them to his mother. They don't really believe Riley, but they're his friends, so they go along with it anyway. And it's about their journey and Riley's journey of self-discovery, learning to accept who he is fully and love who he is, because he carries some shame about it at first. When you're growing up in the deep South in America, like I did, the shame is very heavy. It's something you can't really escape when you are queer. And I know that's not the case for everyone. And I know things are changing, but I wrote this based on my experience. And interestingly enough, when I talk to young people who've read it today, and I was a kid a long time ago, they're like, I'm going through the same thing. So that was very meaningful to know that it still relates. It still resonates with kids.
I totally get you, sir. And I believe that this is the magic of creating stories and tales, that we can get to express the way we live and who we used to be,
Right.
who we are planning to be in the future. So I feel that this is very personal. And you mentioned that, but I just know that people are going to enjoy this book very much. So I am very happy that we can get to know more about it. I personally didn't know much about it because I need to confess that I haven't read it. Yeah, but it is a commitment that I just made a few days ago, that I am going to do it. And because we're actually trying and pretending to select this book for next year. So if things go the way we want to,
I would love that. I would love to come back and talk about it. It's like I say, so much personal in this book. It was actually very cathartic to write, because I was very close to my mother. I was a mama's boy, just like Riley is. And, I lost her when I was very young, and it really made a deep impact on me. And especially when you're, in that situation where you're not in a welcoming or accepting environment, but you know that your mother, although you're maybe afraid to tell her that you're queer, she is kind of your safe place. And I know that's not the case for everyone, but it was for me. Even though I lost her when I was very young, I knew that she loved me no matter what. And that's what I wanted to do with the book, is take Riley from this place of shame and scared for people to know who he is, especially his family, especially his father, and follow his journey through that. I tell readers sometimes, because a lot of people tell me that the whispers, they had to use a box of tissues while they read it. They used a whole box of tissues while they read it. And it's not my intent, to make someone sad, but someone said something perfect. She said, this book broke my heart and then put it back together again. And I think that's the best compliment. And also, it's for a lot of adults read my books because they share the experiences I had. So even though the books or that book is technically middle grade, meaning that the characters are in the 10 to 12, 13 range, I have a lot of adults who read my book. And one gay man who was probably in his 50s or 60s said, this book healed my 12-year-old soul. And that was very powerful to me because I totally know what he was talking about. So I'm glad that it has resonated with so many people.
And I know that it's going to be it's going to continue changing lives this way. It feels like a book that we need to read once in a lifetime, or maybe I don't think that I am wrong You know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. And about the breaking people's hearts, I tell all my readers, like, when you start one of my books, if it's breaking your heart, just know that all my books end with hope. So that's what I bring to all the books I write. I do focus on writing about LGBTQ characters because I wanted to tell stories that I didn't have access to when I was young. When I was going to the library looking for books, couldn't find any of these books. So I want to write books for kids that were like me. And there's a lot more now out there than there was, certainly when I was a kid. But in the middle grade space, there still is a lot of work to be done. The young adult space has, been booming with LGBTQ characters and stories. The middle grade space still has a little ways to go.
I completely agree. Actually, it's quite interesting why we used to believe that middle grade books are for kids. In my opinion, I don't think they are only for that particular like target audience. But we really enjoy books like this because of that. Actually, one of those books that I think it's sort of related, or it reminds me of it, and I told you about it. It's A Monster Calls by Patrick
Oh, yeah.
Ness.
Mhm.
I believe that I don't mean to compare it, but the son and mother relationship and
Yeah.
this journey about finding yourself and
Right.
facing grief, it's something that I believe it's close to this book, to this novel. And this is true for most of us because Patrick
Well,
Ness also happens to be a queer author.
right. And what I tell people is sometimes I get told that, or by the gatekeepers, the adults, this subject matter is not appropriate for kids this age, which I just bristle at, because my point is I write what kids are living. If kids are living it, I'm going to write about it. And the whispers, that's what I was going through when I was that age, so to tell me that it's not appropriate for kids that age, you're telling my 12-year-old self that the feelings I had were inappropriate, but that's just the feelings I had, so
Yeah.
I do touch on some heavy, what you might call heavy themes in some of my books. There's some, deals a lot with grief and the whispers, and the visitors there's even more. But like I say, that's what kids are going through. They tell me every time they come up to me, that was their experience too.
Yeah, and you're talking about something that's very important. The situation in Mexico is quite unique, I might say, because there are almost none books like this.
Oh, really?
We cannot find most queer books for kids or for teenagers. It's almost every time for adults.
Right.
And even though in America the situation is quite different, because widely will be the word, widely different. Um, most books of these topics and talking about queer people, queer youth, are being published. There are some people, there is a certain part of the population that, they think that these books should not be allowed.
Mhm.
And it's very sad to know that it's happening, because even we see America as a country that has a first step in these matters, and then they are going back.
Going backwards, absolutely. You're not saying anything that is not true. It's very frightening to watch as someone who grew up here. It's very disheartening. It's sad to see where a large section of our country is going. I mean, our country is split right down the middle. But sadly enough, in a lot of cases, it's those people who want to suppress and erase who have the power. So I don't know where all that's going to go. I just keep fighting the good fight by writing the books and supporting libraries and supporting bookstores. That's what I can do. The students here in the U.S. are getting more and more involved in that fight, which I love to see, because I believe that's when there's going to be real change, is when the students that are being erased taken out, their stories are taken out of the libraries. They're being told their stories are not valuable. They're starting to fight back. And when I see kids, you know, activist LGBTQ kids today, it overwhelms me. I have such hope because of them.
And you're doing an amazing job
Well, thank you.
For young readers, for
doing my
the
part.
I believe that the phrase "thank you for your service" is not
Yeah.
quite appropriate, but it is.
I
It
get
is at
what
the
you're
same time.
saying. Thank you.
Thank you. So, lastly, before proceeding with the second one, what will be your killing pitch for us Mexican readers, so we can go get a copy right now?
What would be my what?
Your killing pitch.
What does
The
that
way
mean?
that you the way that you promote something in the business, like
I'm sorry. Yes,
like the
I
killer
apologize.
speech.
Go get this book. No, I'm kidding. No, I would just say that if you're looking for something that will touch your heart and something that almost everyone can find a bit of their self in, something that will touch your heart and make you feel very deep emotions, but leave you with a huge sense of hope, I think this is the book for you. I think everyone can relate to it. Like, you know, like you love Social Intercourse, it's set in the American South too, but you love it. So I find that fascinating and wonderful. Same thing with the Whispers. Don't think that you won't be able to relate to the story.
Thank you. That was very kind, and I believe that, you know, it's great. It's a great way to recap.
Right. And be looking out for the movie for the Whispers.
Oh, it's like that a fact?
It's in production or in development. I'm sorry. It
Oh my
has been
God.
optioned for a feature film, and right now the screenplay is being written. But over here we're having, you know, a writer strike with the Writers Guild of America, so nobody is writing anything right now, and that could go on for months. So right now everything's kind of on hold because of the writer strike. But once they get back to work, you know, the movie will start progressing.
Well, I am stunned and I'm speechless. Like, congratulations for that too.
Thank you.
And you guys, if you were not convinced to go get your copy with the previous killer speech, you can be sure.
I like that term, killer speech. I'm gonna start asking people for their killer speech.
Well, so I think that it's going to be possible to make something like a body read. Now that we know this, we need to support these kind of stories that are very important.
Absolutely.
And that, as you said, that can break our hearts and get them back together.
Put them back together, right?
So now let's talk about the second book. That it was my personal favorite, and so ashamed to tell you that it was the only one that I have read from you. Social Intercourse, which has an interesting shift because it's not middle grade, it's, I think, young adult.
Young adult, yes.
Yeah.
It was the first book I got published as an, you know, a published writer. I didn't really know what I was doing. I knew I was getting ready to turn 50. I think I was around 48 years old and working in the music business in Nashville. And I had always wanted to write a book my entire life since I was a little kid. But I never did it. So I thought, I'm getting ready to turn 50 in a couple of years. I want to do this, you know. And it worked out. I wrote it in 2015 or so, found my agent in 2016. She sold it to Simon and Schuster, and it came out in 2018. When I turned 52, actually, is when it came out, but I got the deal when I turned 50. So that was exciting. It's a very different story, as I know you know, Jerry. You know the story. It is not the Whispers.
Not at all.
Not at all. It is set also in South Carolina, in the States, and it's the story of a 17-year-old high school student named Beckett Gaines, and it's also told in dual perspectives. So you have the perspective of Beckett Gaines, and you have the perspective of Jackson Parker. And Jackson is like the football player, the jock, you know, very popular, gorgeous.
He's straight. Yeah.
That's right. Everybody thinks he's straight, and so does he. And he has two lesbian moms, or he has lesbian moms, so
Yeah.
doesn't, say two, but he has lesbian moms, but he is very, everybody thinks he's straight. It's about him and Beckett and their interaction, because Beckett is out and proud and funny and hilarious, and he loves the Golden Girls, and he lives with his single dad. His mother actually ran off a few years earlier, but they are from two separate high school worlds. You know what I mean? They do not mix. And even when they were kids, they would play together and all, but as they got older, they grew apart. And Beckett was bullied for being out and out and proud. And he remembers Jackson not sticking up for him, and he remembers Jackson laughing along with it. And that's when their relationship kind of soured. So Beckett really kind of hates Jackson at the beginning of the book. He hates him, and Jackson's just like, he doesn't think anything of Beckett, really. So what happens is they are forced together when Jackson's mothers split up, and one of his mother's moms starts dating, because she's bisexual, she starts dating Beckett's father.
Dad. Yeah.
And Beckett is not happy about that. He is not. So the juxtaposition is that these two guys from two different worlds are kind of forced to spend time together, and it's just like oil and water. But Beckett is hilarious. He is constantly making us laugh. He's constantly doing these outrageous things with his best friend Shelby. And everybody, not everybody, a lot of people tell me Shelby is their favorite character in the book because she's hilarious too. And he is funny because he and Jackson make some terrible, terrible choices. But when you're that age, you make terrible choices, you do stupid things.
Yeah.
And so they do too. But Beckett is trying to help get a rainbow prom, or a prom for queer kids, going in his high school. And it's kind of based on my high school and kind of the people I knew in high school. I don't really consider myself as Beckett or Jackson. But Beckett's character I love because he is so out and proud and comfortable with who he is. He doesn't try to change who he is for anybody. And I say that's how I wish I had been in high school, but I wasn't. But I'm curious to know what you liked about the book.
Oh my gosh.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Turning back, right? I believe that, well, it's been about 2 years since I first read it. And I remember that it came to my life in a very special moment, because I read it actually for Pride Month as well. It is the perfect read for Pride Month.
Oh, yes, perfect.
Yeah. And I thought that it was something hilarious, because most of the people that I knew that read this book before me compared this book with the Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda and stuff. But I love that book, like this one, Social Intercourse, better than Love Simon, the Simon versus the
Oh,
Homo
wow,
sapiens
that's high
agenda.
praise.
Yeah, because I believe that it was more honest here, and I really love the two perspectives part.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, we have Jats, which was a very interesting character. We slowly realize who he is and what's something that matters for him. That even though he's planning to make this complot against his new dad,
Right.
well, he's sort of new dad, or stepdad.
Yeah, they're bound and determined to break their parents up. That's the only way they're together. They agree on that.
I thought that it was something like sort of reminded me of the Parent Trap movie, but in the opposite, because in that movie they are planning to make them together again.
Yeah.
And in this one they are not precisely doing that. So I really love the plot and the characters, but something that I really enjoyed was the pop culture references, because you mentioned that you dedicated some time in your life to music, and this is a novel that I remember with music. Fun fact, I really love like reading by listening to music.
Yeah.
And I remember that I made a playlist including like Lady Gaga, Troye Sivan, Dua Lipa.
You made a playlist for social intercourse?
Yeah,
Oh
I
my,
did.
I loved, is it like on Spotify or something, or Apple Music, or
Yeah, I think that I can like do it again in Spotify.
I would love to hear it because
And
I do the same thing. I have a playlist on my
yeah,
Spotify account. Yeah.
and that was something that I recently discovered when I was reading in your website that you have this playlist. And it amazes me how we are so close in like musical taste because
Right. Well,
most
it's the
songs,
feel of the book, right?
yeah. And you said that that is a quote that I remember I highlighted here in the book where
Oh,
it says every queer kid knows Lady Gaga and Beyonce or something like that.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was true how we are close to this. I remember that um I was playing in my mind Kylie Minogue in that
Mm,
bar disco moment
yeah.
in the
Yeah.
novel, which was very spicy, I believe.
Yeah. It was spicy.
Yeah, it was.
Well, that's funny you say that, Jerry, because I'm a friend of Becky Albertalli's. She's a friend of
Oh,
mine who wrote Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda. Becky actually, I read Simon and I read Aristotle and Dante, and I read Will Grayson. I
yeah,
read those books before I wrote Social Intercourse. And while I loved them all, I thought they were all great. I did feel like, well, these are great, but it's not my story. You know, my story I feel like is very different. In and I as a kid was a little raunchier. You know, I mean, I would, the book is kind of racy, although no sex happens on the page. There is a lot of discussion of sex and body parts, and um, I guess there is one that does happen on the page. But anyway,
I kind of
uh,
remember like three moments actually.
yeah, well, one happens actually on the page. The others are kind of talked about, but
Yeah,
you might be right. I forgot. But it has drag queens.
yeah,
They go to a spa that's run by drag queens, and to me, that was one of the funnest scenes to write. And that was inspired because I was loving RuPaul's Drag Race,
yeah.
and
And
I
the
remember
names, their names were absolutely stunning as well.
yeah, but the main drag queen who runs the spa is based on one of RuPaul's girls, one of her drag queens. Her name is Ginger Minge, and I hope one day I can meet Ginger to tell her this because I saw her so clearly when I was writing this. And if anybody ever makes this into a TV show or a movie, I'm going to beg them to get Ginger Minge to play Queefy LePew was her name.
Yeah,
But I do it, we're talking about how funny it is and everything. Oh, I'll say this also about Becky. So she read the book 2 or 3 times and loved it, is she called it Slutty Simon. Oh, which I loved. I thought that was, my Siri is getting messed up here, but anyway, I just hope that's gone now. All right. So she called it Slutty Simon, and to me that is the best description. If you like Simon versus Homo sapiens agenda, this is similar but a lot sluttier. Hope you don't mind me saying that.
no, no, it's perfectly okay.
But also having read the book, that it's not all laughs and hijinks. There are some really tender moments. There are some really powerful moments, and there's the clash of a religious group,
Yeah,
ultra conservative religious group in this town, in this small southern town, who are fighting against the kids, the LGBTQ kids, and trying to stop their rainbow prom from happening. And you can tell that goes real deep for Beckett. He feels it very deeply. So there's some tears too. I always have to have tears in my book, but mostly the social intercourse is just, if you don't like to laugh, then you don't need. That's what I like to tell people.
yeah,
And it is a special book to me because it's the first book I got published, and I wrote it when I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to write a book. I was just writing a fun story, and it took me about, I guess, 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, and I've never written a book that fast ever again.
wow,
Because I think it's just because I wasn't writing for anybody but me. And
yeah,
then I got done, and I thought, well, that's kind of good. So I started searching for agents, and the rest is history.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have like one quick question about your writing process between like Jax and Beckett, the main characters in the story. Which was like your favorite to write about?
Well, I will say that it's hard not to say it was Beckett because he was just such a fun character to write. Jax is a very complex character,
Yeah,
and he's not all that meets the eye. There's so much deeper to Jax than we see at first in the book. We kind of even don't like him a little bit because of what Beckett feels he's done to him. But then at the heart of it, you know, Jax just wants his moms to get back together. He loves his family, and he believes that if he, helps Beckett break up his mom and Beckett's dad, that his moms will be able to get back together. And also, Beckett has a strained relationship with his mom because she left them, and she shows up back in town, and kind of the old feelings of this is my mom, and his anger towards her starts melting a little bit, and he thinks it might be make his dad happy if he got back together with his mom. So they both are fighting for their families, and that was a fun aspect to write. But as far as just hilarity and fun, I would have to say Beckett. Jax made me work for it. He's, like I said, he's a deeper dude than you realize.
I believe that Beckett must be one of my most remarkable characters
Oh, I
like,
love hearing
in the
that. I
story
love
that I
that.
have read because you know I believe that his story is very close to mine in some
Mm,
way, but I really love Beckett as well. And he was very funny to read, as you said. This
yeah.
is a book that it's both humoristic and funny and powerful because you said that word. There are certain moments that actually gave me goosebumps.
Oh, wow.
Remember them. So I
I
think,
love the fact that a book that is set in the deep American South. I would see out of my ignorance, I wouldn't really maybe think about that somebody in Guadalajara it would really touch and mean something to, you know. So
yeah,
that's amazing to me because that tells me all of our stories are universal.
and that is true. I am very happy that I got to get this copy because otherwise I will be very lost
Mm,
in a book like this. I am so proud that we can get to know each other
yeah,
and that we can talk about it together finally.
yeah,
Because something that we need to say is that this edition in particular is not available in Spanish language yet,
it's not. Yes, not yet.
but I believe that it's a very good start for readers that are trying to find something in English.
Yeah, yeah. I hope so. And I love what you said about it came to your life in a special time when you really needed it. And I'll tell you this really quickly. I know we're getting low on time, but I did my first book festival here in the U.S. It was a huge book festival, and it was young adult. It was all teenagers. And I just thought Social Intercourse was just this fun, hilarious book. I didn't really know what it meant to people until I started getting these teenagers in my signing line, and that's the only book I had, and I had so many of them tell me this book saved my life, and I was just stunned. I was
Because
like,
it did.
"What?" Or this book helped me out of a very dark time, and I was just floored. And it changed my whole thinking about writing because I was writing just I had no
For
real
pleasure.
no altruistic things in mind. I wasn't trying to save the world, I was just wanting to get a book deal and to make money and to maybe get a movie deal. But after that book festival and hearing that from those kids, it made me realize this means something and you need to take it seriously. This is not about you, it's about the readers. And that just changed my whole outlook on writing. And from now on, I don't I see that there are kids reading these things that it could save their lives, and so now I take that very seriously.
Well, I assume that you are doing it because, as I said before, I really admire that from you, the way that you get to be an activist and an author at the same time. It says a lot of who you are, and I'm really glad. to get
Oh,
to
thank
know
you. I
them.
appreciate it. I just want those kids to feel seen and know that their stories have value. That's my main goal.
And you're doing it. So
Thank you.
congratulations for that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your service again.
Mhm.
And also congratulations for the upcoming adaptations. It's such a nice, great news.
Yes. I mean, you know how these things go. It may never happen, but they are working on it. So,
They are working on it.
yeah, the
Yeah.
producers of the Whispers movie are the same producers that produced Call Me by Your Name, that film,
Oh, Lord.
and Nomadland. And so they are very serious. They know what they're doing. And so I feel like that's in very good hands.
And I truly believe that we are going to know more about this project very soon.
I hope I have more to tell you soon.
Thank you so much again for coming to Book Club Secretos del Universo. It was a pleasure. And guys, if you're seeing this right after, I'm pretty disappointed that you didn't join us.
You missed it.
You missed it. You saw this first, but you may see Mr. Howard again.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me, Jerry. It's been wonderful to talk to you and connect with somebody not in the same neighborhood.
Yeah, like a total different country.
Right. I love
Thank
it.
you so much. I am going to be saving this interview for our YouTube channel. So
Well, I would love to ask people if they see it to follow me on social media. I'm at Greg Howard Books on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So please, join the family.
you can also visit his blog and his website. Greg Howard
Yes, the
Books.
website is also Greg Howard Books.
Yeah. So thank you so much again. Please
Thank
have
you,
a nice
Jerry.
day. Once again,
All right.
happy Pride Month, and thank you for
All right.
believing
Happy
in
Pride,
us.
Jerry. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.